A peaceful morning in the Tennessee countryside was suddenly shattered by a mysterious disappearance. Holly Bobo, a 20-year-old girl, beautiful and full of dreams, left home for school, but it would be the last time her family ever saw her alive. In just a few short minutes, Holly vanished in broad daylight, leaving behind faint traces and haunting questions. It wasn't until more than 3 years later that her remains were finally discovered, uncovering a tangled investigation filled with conflicting testimonies and dark secrets. This case not only shook the state of Tennessee, but also became one of the greatest mysteries in the history of crime. You're watching my channel where we explore the most mysterious cases and the most thrilling stories. And as always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much. In a quiet land in Henderson County, Tennessee, bordering Interstate 40, a tragedy unfolded. The area, once known for its rich forests and rivers, had its peace forever shattered years ago by a chilling disappearance. The investigation would drag on for 7 years, consuming an enormous amount of money and becoming the most expensive case in Tennessee's history. The victim was Holly Bobo. On the morning of April 13, 2011, at 7:50 a.m., the sound of frantic barking jolted Clint Bobo awake. With their parents already at work, only he and his sister were at home. Still groggy, Clint stepped into the kitchen. Through the window, he saw Holly in the garage with a man dressed in black. She dropped to the ground, her voice filled with panic. Clint caught only fragments of her cries. "No, why is it me?" At that time, Holly was 20 years old, a nursing student at the University of Tennessee at Martin. She was outgoing and loved nature. Clint assumed she was arguing with her boyfriend, Drew. The night before, Drew had mentioned going turkey hunting. His hunting clothes didn't seem unusual, but one detail troubled Clint. Holly had an important exam at 8:00 a.m., yet she was still at home. As Clint hesitated, their mother suddenly called in a panic, urging him to check if Holly was safe because neighbors had reported hearing screams. Clint reassured her, saying Holly had just stood up and was walking toward the woods with her boyfriend. But instantly, his mother's voice turned urgent. That wasn't Drew. Clint was stunned. He was sure it was Drew. But without further explanation, his mother hung up and dialed 911. Because his mother worked far away, her call was accidentally routed to the Decatur County dispatcher, delaying the emergency response. Meanwhile, Clint realized the man was much larger than Drew. Alarmed, he tried calling both Holly and Drew, but neither answered. Overcome with dread, Clint grabbed a weapon and ran into the woods. As soon as he reached the door, Clint noticed suspicious traces in the garage and immediately called the police. 10 minutes later, his parents rushed back in a panic, accompanied by investigators. The family's statements painted a shadowy picture. Holly's father said she had woken up at 5:00 a.m. to study but noticed nothing unusual. Her mother, an elementary school teacher, later called Drew and confirmed he was out turkey hunting elsewhere. She was certain that the man seen with Holly was not her boyfriend. Clint testified that he had been in a deep sleep and did not hear any screams. Neighbors provided a crucial detail at 7:50 a.m. They heard a piercing scream and saw a white pickup truck speeding away immediately afterward. Police immediately sealed off the house and the surrounding area. There were no signs of forced entry, but in the garage they found several drops of blood identified as Holly's. An unidentified fingerprint was also discovered on a vehicle, but no additional biological evidence was found. Holly's phone could not be reached. Police concluded this was a serious case, and that Holly needed to be found immediately. Hundreds of local volunteers joined the search, forming a vast network. But by the next morning, all efforts had failed. Holly seemed to have completely vanished. Reviewing her phone data, police discovered that Holly had traveled north, stopped for about 20 minutes near Interstate 40, then turned south. The phone's last recorded location was near Highway 641, after which it was switched off. The search focused on this area. They found Holly's lunchbox phone and SIM card, but her whereabouts remained unknown. From this point, a 7-year investigation began. The suspect pool eventually narrowed down to 5 different groups. But even today, the true culprit remains a mystery that stirs heated debate. Holly's brother Clint Bobo was the last person to see her and naturally became one of the first suspects. His testimony contained a notable change. At first, Clint said he had seen a man dragging Holly into the woods, but later, when questioned again, he corrected himself, saying it was simply a man walking with her. This discrepancy was crucial in determining whether Holly had left under duress or voluntarily, a detail that shaped the direction of the investigation. That small change immediately caught the police's attention. When they searched the woods, they found nothing unusual. It seemed likely that someone familiar, or someone Holly trusted, had persuaded her to leave willingly. Furthermore, neighbors insisted they had heard a woman scream while Clint, who was closer, claimed he heard nothing. Police examined Clint's clothing, analyzed his call logs, and tracked his phone, but no incriminating evidence was found. He was eventually cleared as a suspect. An important clue later came from Clint himself. Because he couldn't see the man's face clearly, he mistakenly thought the man with Holly was Drew. Later, when recalling the event, Clint described the man as being about 6 feet 2 inches tall, weighing between 180 and 200 pounds, dressed in black, wearing a baseball cap with a deep voice and long black hair. Holly's cousin, Whitney Duncan, also revealed that the area was quite remote and difficult to navigate. In the town, hardly anyone locked their doors, leading the family to suspect that the abductor lived nearby and was well acquainted with the surroundings. Police reviewed local residents and ex-convicts in the area, eventually focusing on a suspect who matched the description: Britt, about 50 years old. He fit Clint's account, had prior offenses involving harassment and stalking of women. Britt worked as a newspaper delivery man, knew the local roads well, and his delivery route included the area where Holly's lunchbox was found. Clint also believed that Britt's voice was identical to the man who had taken Holly. Britt claimed he had an alibi. He and his wife were shopping for a bathtub, but no store employees recalled seeing him. In fact, no bathtubs were sold at that store during the entire week after Holly's disappearance. Suspiciously, after Holly went missing, Britt cut his hair short and altered his appearance. When police searched his home and car, they found a handwritten receipt for a bathtub and a chainsaw. Phone records showed that Britt and his wife called each other that morning, contradicting their claim that they had been shopping together. Even under pressure, Britt denied any involvement, going so far as to taunt investigators by analyzing the psychology of the perpetrator. Police once believed he was the culprit, but after 8 months, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation suspended the case due to insufficient evidence. The town's tranquility gave way to fear, and the case was widely covered in the media, drawing public attention. Soon after, a special prosecutor was appointed to continue the case, and the Tennessee State investigation was revived. Upon review, locals and police began to focus on 4 men, whose surnames all started with the letter A, each with prior drug-related offenses. They were referred to as the A-Team. In fact, during the initial sweep, police had already interrogated Shane, one member of the group, just 4 days before the crime in connection with an attack on another woman. A friend of Holly recalled that when they went to the Decatur County Fair, she noticed a man in black, slightly overweight, wearing glasses. He pretended to be on the phone but kept staring at them, which made her uneasy. From this description, police created a suspect sketch and identified him as Shane, who lived not far from Holly's house. However, this only proved that Shane had once noticed Holly, not that he was guilty. In the new review, locals reported that around the time of the disappearance, Zach, another group member, had threatened someone by saying they would end up like Holly, buried in a dirt pit. At the time, Zach was 28, unemployed, hot-tempered, quarrelsome, and had the most criminal record in the group. 10 years earlier, he had assaulted his own mother with a weapon, forcing her and his stepfather to obtain a restraining order, declaring him a danger to both family and community. Dylan was Zach's younger brother. Dylan, 24, worked construction and had a record of theft. The 2 brothers were reportedly close. Jason, Shane's cousin, was 39 that year and lived only about 2 kilometers from Holly's house. He had once served in the military, later worked as a truck driver, and also had multiple theft convictions. The 4 members of the A-Team were tightly connected to each other and indirectly tied to Holly, leading police to suspect their involvement. A comprehensive investigation was immediately launched. The prosecutor even offered Shane a deal if he told the whole truth. He would receive a reduced sentence or immunity. Shane testified that he once heard Zach say, "I'll do to you what I did to Holly," but he thought it was just a joke. He claimed he didn't know what Zach had done to Holly, nor where she was. This suggested that on the day of the crime, Shane and Zach had planned multiple calls together. Police believed Shane had helped Zach commit the crime, but Shane denied involvement and refused to cooperate in finding Holly. After the prosecutor revoked Shane's immunity deal based on his testimony and that of some locals, Zach was identified as being connected to Holly's disappearance. In May 2014, Zach was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping. The following month, Jason was also indicted on the same charges. During the investigation of Dylan, police discovered that in September 2013, he had been convicted of illegal possession and trafficking of firearms, receiving an 8-month sentence. While Dylan served time, investigators visited the prison 6 times to question him about Holly, and Dylan repeatedly hinted that Zach was involved. After his release, Dylan was considered a key witness and placed in protective housing. By then, all 4 members of the A-team had become targets of the investigation. In July 2014, investigators shifted focus to a new pair of brothers, Jeffrey and Mark. An unexpected lead emerged when Jeffrey's roommate contacted police. She claimed that about 2 months before Holly disappeared, Jeffrey had shown her a disturbing video. A woman named Holly tied up lying on the ground, sobbing. Jeffrey casually told her that it was his younger brother Mark who had filmed it. Mark also had a criminal record, but both brothers adamantly denied the existence of such a video, insisting they had no connection to Holly Bobo. They argued that Jeffrey's ex-wife also happened to be named Holly, and the situation was a coincidence. Police examined more than 20 phones, but the alleged videos were never found. All efforts to connect the brothers to the case yielded nothing. 3.5 years had passed since Holly's disappearance. Though every lead had gone cold, the search never stopped. K-9 units and helicopters scoured forests, rivers, and abandoned structures near Holly's home. More than 10,000 people participated in searches across Henderson and Decatur counties. The reward fund from the community and organizations exceeded $450,000, reflecting relentless determination. The case was not only a tragedy, but also the most expensive investigation ever undertaken in Tennessee Bureau of Investigation history. 4 years after Holly's disappearance, a chilling breakthrough occurred. In September 2014, in Decatur County, 2 ginseng hunters stumbled upon a large, overturned plastic bucket containing partial human remains. Police immediately confirmed it was Holly Bobo, the young woman missing for over 3 years. An autopsy revealed she had died from a gunshot wound. The discovery of more remains, along with her wallet and driver's license, officially turned the disappearance into a homicide case. 10 days later, Dylan, one of the A-team members, broke his silence. He admitted that he, Zach, Shane, and Jason were involved. Dylan stated that on the morning Holly disappeared, he went to Zach's house and saw Holly alive sitting in the living room. Shortly afterward, Holly was attacked by the group, and Zach recorded the entire incident. However, when police searched Zach's house, no such video or physical evidence was found. A month later, Dylan himself was indicted, while Shane, the 4th member, committed suicide during the ongoing investigation. Holly's mother was devastated to realize that her daughter's killers were former students she had once taught. With over 600 witnesses and 150,000 pieces of evidence gathered, the case dragged on for 6 years before going to trial in Hardin County despite the lack of direct DNA evidence. The suspects' testimonies became crucial. Jason agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. The police believed that Shane had assisted Zach in committing the crime, but Shane denied this and refused to cooperate in finding Holly. After the prosecutor withdrew the immunity deal with him based on Shane's testimony and that of some local residents, Zach was identified as being involved in Holly's disappearance. In May 2014, Zach was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping. Later, after Holly was found, he was forced to confess or else he wouldn't be allowed to sleep. When it was revealed that the testimonies of the 2 men were questionable, Zach, who was still serving his sentence at that time, filed an appeal. In January 2024, Zach's lawyer stated that new evidence had surfaced. A video showed that on the morning of the crime, at the exact time Holly was abducted, Zach Dillon and another man were withdrawing money from an ATM. With no time to commit the crime, the lawyer also requested that the conviction be overturned based on this evidence. The testimony of Shane, another member of the group, contradicted Jason's, and the location Jason claimed to have disposed of the body did not match where Holly was actually found. Many unresolved questions remain, making the Holly Bobo case one of the most hotly debated cases to this day. This case is among the longest, most influential, and most controversial in the history of modern American justice. Although a verdict was reached, the conflicting testimonies and questionable key evidence have led the public to doubt whether justice was truly served. The discovery of the ATM footage proving that the main suspect was not at the scene at the time of the abduction only deepened the cracks in the investigation. The lesson to be learned here is that investigations must remain completely objective and scientific. They cannot rely solely on witness statements while overlooking physical evidence and digital data. The rights of suspects must be protected because once a wrongful conviction occurs, correcting it becomes incredibly difficult. The media must also act responsibly, as public pressure can drive a case based on emotion rather than truth. In the end, justice is not just a verdict. It only becomes complete when the questions are answered, the real perpetrator is caught, and the victim receives the justice they deserve. Even after this case, countless questions remain unanswered. Who was the real perpetrator? Did the verdicts against Zach and the others truly reflect the truth? Or is there still a criminal walking free outside the law? Where does justice go when so many doubts remain? Will this case ever truly close, or will it continue to reopen in the future? What do you think about this case? Leave your thoughts in the comments below so we can discuss them together. And before you go, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next classic true crime case.